Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're taking a look at another unusual kitchen knife. This one is made by Cold Steel. It's called the Outdoorsman. And I didn't actually buy this. I got it for free for winning a photo competition. And then I didn't have any other uses for it, so it just became my kitchen knife. So this is obviously intended for, I don't know, camping or bushcraft or something like that, because it's quite thick and intended to be really strong and just, the shape of it. But surprisingly, it works really well as a sort of fun kitchen knife, sort of a novelty shape. It looks like a sort of like a sword in a way, like a little mini sword. Quality wise, it's also really, really good. So, it's intended to be really, really tough. About a 5.5-inch blade, and then the handle is about 5-inch. And at the bottom of the handle here, you have this pommel, which is intended for breaking rocks or whatever. And it is full tang, so the steel goes all the way to the bottom here. And as you can see, I accidentally put a hot pan on this and burnt it slightly, but whatever, I don't care that much. Now the handle is very, very grippy and actually very comfortable to use. And the only thing here is that it's going to be a little bit more difficult to clean because it is very, very textured. So it's got all these grooves where food can sort of get stuck in. As long as you have a brush or something, you can easily clean that. Now the blade here is about 3 millimeters thick. It's 153 grams or 5.4 ounce. Now, one of the reasons I really like this is that it is very, very sharp and it stays very sharp. It holds its edge really, really well. Even in the area here that gets used the most, it still remains sharp because it's intended for really, really tough tasks. So food and chopping boards are just not a very tough task for this knife. I do like that it's got quite a thin edge, which makes it quite good for cutting, although some chef's knives do have an even thinner edge. The shape of the blade is not the ideal shape for a kitchen knife because you have this thing here in the way. So if you're just working on the top of the cutting board, then you're going to be cutting with this area of the blade and not with that area. So you're working with a smaller area. You'll see me cut some stuff in a second. Obviously, I wouldn't expect a professional chef to use this, but it works. With most knives like this, you will have a little bit of sort of forward or back motion to do that cut. At least in my opinion, obviously it just depends on the user. But with this, it just means you need a little bit more sort of slicing motion to get through stuff. Now, when I'm chopping with this in the kitchen, using this part of the blade is not really a problem because I just chop just sort of a little bit further this way on the board, and then the entire blade can reach the board. If you wanted to, you could also chop more like this so that the table wasn't even in your way at all. Okay, so I'm going to make some coleslaw. And so with this knife, I normally use it like this. And the reason for that, the reason I'm not pressing down, it's not that I can't press down, but actually it makes a little bit more noise, and I'm just the kind of person who likes things a bit more quiet, especially because I'm normally sort of listening to something like a podcast or whatever, or something on YouTube while I'm doing other stuff. So I just prefer the quiet, so I don't really want to keep banging on this. So even though this will chop through, and it's not that difficult to chop through with this, it just works better for me to just do it like this. I'm not trying to do this like super fast or something. It just, when I'm cooking, I'm quite enjoying myself. And yeah, it's just, and you can see my hand here is at a slightly strange angle. That's because I'm sitting down. Normally I would be at a slightly more comfortable position with the knife in my hand, because here I'm sort of, my body is sort of there rather than sort of more above. But yeah, still works fine. And this would chop faster. This, it will, but you have to go at the edge of the board. And now onto something a little bit more difficult, which is a carrot. So I'm going to peel this carrot, and I'm not using a peeler kind of thing. I think I have one somewhere, but I don't particularly like it. I find it just, it's another thing to wash. Sometimes stuff gets stuck in it, and I'm sure you can get good ones, but I don't know. I'm fine with just using the knife since I already have it there. Some knives do a really terrible job with something like this, trying to peel it, because they'll either not go in or dig too deep in. But some knives actually do a pretty decent job. And actually, with practice, you could probably do thinner peeling than you'll do with an actual peeler, like a dedicated peeler. So yeah, and this is not difficult. You'll see there I made a mistake. I went too deep into that. And you can still do the sort of more curved areas. For a bit of a comparison and for my own curiosity, we've got a knife with a much thinner blade. I think it'd be interesting to see. So, made a mistake there. So yeah, that works fine. And then here a knife that is a thin blade and also has a full flat grind like this one. You're not going to see this very easily in the video, but this has a secondary edge, a very, very tiny one, which is just sort of quite a steep angle. And that's just more for safety. That's because it's a knife intended for teaching children. So this is also not ideal, but could still do the job. It's cutting maybe a little bit thicker, but yeah, still does the job quite nicely. Actually, this is probably the easiest one to do it with, because this one doesn't want to dig in quite as much. Let's see how they chop a carrot, which is more difficult to chop. So if I just want to press down, this one works fine. This one, a little more difficult to chop because I'm further away from my hand, so I need to put more pressure in. If I was closer to my hand, then it would work a little bit easier. So this chops fine. See how this does. Oh yeah, this one does it really, really well. It's thin and very sharp. So I'm not sure if there's an actual conclusion to this video. I mean, it's not intended to be a kitchen knife, so it's not like I can say they did a good job or a bad job or whatever. So I hope you guys found that interesting. If you want to see my review about this chopping board, it's a really nice one from Totally Bamboo. And I did also do a pretty full review about this Opinel Le Petit Chef, which is a kitchen knife, and actually I do really, really like this one. And I will be reviewing this little guy soon, the Spyderco Dragonfly 2, which is pretty amazing as a little pocket knife.